Okay, we're going to get started here. What a beautiful day, first off, and thank you all for coming. For those that don't know me, my name's Alex Giovanelli, and like many of you here today, I was a friend of John's and have the honor of acting as MC for today. And I just wanted to comment, where's Jerry? Jerry's right in the front here. Look at the crowd, Jerry, compared to Fire Smart last week. No, just great to see you all here. So we're going to keep things simple and casual because that's how John lived his life. We'll start our program by hearing a little bit about John's life, the path that brought him here, from a few people that were close to him. And after that, I'm going to open up the mic for anybody in the audience that would like to join in and say a few words. And once we're finished, please feel free to stay, mingle. We have some nice baked goods, refreshments. Look at the board up here. There's some nice pictures of John as well. So why are we here and why Jamie Soule Memorial Park? Yes?
Remember you were going to mention about the yellow stick?
I was going to do that at the end, Pat, but let me mention it now. So Pat was great at putting these pictures together. We all sent her some electronic photos, and of course electronic photos don't work in a media like this. So she was gracious enough to print them off and make the boards, but she's also put some yellow stickies out. So at the end, when you're mingling around, if you want to look at the board and you want to write a few comments about John, you can do that as well. And then we'll either put them on the board or we'll put them in the guest book. And I hope everybody signed the guest book when they came in. So why are we here and why Jamie Soule Memorial Park? So we're gathered here today to honor, remember, and celebrate the life of John Nett. Jamie Soule Memorial Park is a fitting place to do that. It holds a meaning for many of us on Anarchist Mountain as we remember many others from the community who have passed over the years. People who, like John, helped build something special here through their time, energy, and generosity. So with that in mind, I'd like to take a moment of silence, not just for John, but for all those who came to this mountain with dreams, built lives here, and are no longer with us. Thank you. This setting also feels right for John in another way. It reflects the simple, natural beauty of the mountain, the open space, the fresh air, the quiet that he appreciated so much. This is the kind of place where John felt most at home. And I think many of us feel in the same way that he's still with us here today. So I'm going to begin by describing John's life story and sharing a few words on how John impacted me. So let's start with his life story, which is not going to be easy for those that know John. So John was born in Switzerland on January 14, 1951, and he passed away there on December 17, 2025, at the age of 74, just shy of his 75th birthday. And honestly, if it was up to John to describe his life, he probably would have stopped right there. You see, John was a private person. He didn't go out of his way to talk about himself, which means I only learned bits and pieces of his early life over time, through his brother Giacomo, through Marianne, and through the occasional story that he let slip. What I do know is that he came here to Canada in the early 1970s, settling first in Grand Prairie, worked as a heavy-duty mechanic, and moving on to Edmonton. He later spent time in Penticton, managing a gas station and an auto shop, and was even involved in a drinking water venture that Marianne told me briefly about. But if you want to know more, you can talk to her about it. And eventually he made his way to Osoyoos, where he became the operations and project manager at Regal Ridge, helping to build much of the infrastructure And the infrastructure up here is essentially the wells, the roads, the power that many people here still rely on today. It was during that time he met Mary Ann, and in 2002 he moved in with her at Arosa Ranch. Now, John didn't just live on the mountain, he helped shape it. He was one of the founding members of the Anarchist Mountain Community Society, a past fire chief with the Anarchist Mountain Fire Department, and someone who continued to support the fire hall in the community long after he stepped out of his leadership roles. In 2020, the height of COVID, John and Mary Ann sold Arosa Ranch and bought a motorhome, a big motorhome, planning to travel. The plan was US in the winter, as I understand it, and Canada in the summer. Now that sounds like a great plan, and like a lot of great plans, it didn't exactly go that way. Mary Ann moved back to Switzerland, and John split his time between Switzerland and the mountain. And Switzerland, well, Switzerland has rules. Lots of rules. And John, he wasn't really a lots of rules type of guy. He was more of a wild, free spirit, an anarchist, a cowboy, and what I would affectionately refer to him as an anarchist cowboy. He was happiest out here, big sky, open land, figuring out things for himself, no unnecessary instructions. If something broke, you fixed it. If something didn't make sense, you questioned it. And that was John. It was during his last trip to Switzerland, late last year, that he fell ill, broke some ribs, was hospitalized, and later passed away. Many people here first met John through Regal Ridge, buying or building their homes. Others knew him as a master mechanic, or through Arosa Ranch, or as the fire chief, or simply as the guy you called when something needed fixing or figuring out. John was a person who touched us all in different ways, and I wanted to take a moment to reflect on the mark he left on my life and how he generously volunteered his time for the betterment of our community. So I met John in 2015 when I moved to Anarchist Mountain and instantly formed a lasting friendship. Although we did not see each other a lot, we texted each other almost every day right up until the day or a few days before he passed. John was a mentor to me in a lot of ways, whether it was hunting, butchering an elk, or fixing just about anything. You see, John was, in many ways, a walking encyclopedia. Mechanics, history, statistics, politics, you name it. John had a view on it, and usually a well thought out one. He loved a good problem, and even more, he loved solving it. Now, conversations with John sometimes required a bit of patience, especially later on. You'd spend a couple of minutes laying out a perfectly detailed thought, only for him to turn, look at you bewildered, and loudly say, "Huh?" And then you'd have to start all over again trying to remember what you just said in the first place. But that was John. And honestly, it just became part of the rhythm of knowing him. What I'll remember most about John was his generosity, not only with his time, but with his knowledge. As a mechanic, as a master of his craft, he always made time to help a friend or offer guidance to anyone who needed it. I'll forever be grateful for the times he shared his expertise, whether it was fixing something in my own life or simply offering advice that I didn't always know I needed. Even when we didn't always agree, I found that upon reflection, John was often right. He had a way of seeing things clearly, and it was always worth listening to his perspective. I cherish the time we spent together, whether it was over a game of chess, a cup of coffee, or in those long conversations where we were quite confidently solving the world's problems. More than anything, I'll miss his friendship. John was someone you could rely on, no matter what. If you needed help, he showed up. And I know I'm not the only one here who feels that way. John Nett leaves behind a legacy of knowledge, generosity, and a true spirit of what it means to be part of a community. I will be forever grateful for our time together. Rest in peace, John. You were a good friend, will be sadly missed, but never forgotten. Now that's just a little brief story of what I know about John, but I know there's much more to John's story. His travels, his work in other parts of the world, and I hope others here today can help fill in some of those chapters. So I've got a few other people that are on the formal list of speaking that want to share some of their personal tributes and memories. And I'm going to start with Maya Alonso. Maya, why don't you come up? For those that don't know Maya, she is the current owner of Arosa Ranch.
I'm a little short. Is that okay? Can you hear me? Okay. That's unfortunate because I don't know what I'm saying. I didn't prepare any notes, but I'm glad I'm here. For John. John and Marianne, I was very grateful to know and get to know when we purchased Arosa Ranch. We purchased a legacy property, and I remember distinctly in the purchase agreement back in 2020 that it was written that they would help in that first we moved in May 2nd of 2020, and it stated that they would give us a hand in those first, I think, from May until September, and they certainly did, and John continued to help me until he passed. From everything from, trying to figure out my pump in the well at minus 29 weather in February. I would text him and he would come up with ideas and come up with solutions and translate. Everything was written in Swiss German. The breaker panel was all in Swiss German, so he would translate for me. And I eventually got it all translated into English, and some Spanish. So my family is Spanish. My dad is originally from Spain, and John was almost like a grandfather to me and really helped me with so many things in those especially those early moments when we'd first moved there, and he continued to over the years. I just this morning I was scrolling through my WhatsApp conversation with him, and it dating back to June 1st of 2020. And it's just endless support and help and comments about the community or ideas, and hunting tips. So he would always, because when he was staying here, he was living up Sidley Mountain, and so he would tell me when there was, an elk herd on the move, or he always knew where all the animals were on the mountain. So he really, I couldn't have done it without him and his support. And I'm grateful to know him. That first summer, he drove my dad and I around the whole mountain and into Rock Creek and introduced me to people. And of course it was COVID, so we did it carefully, but he really knew a lot about the mountain. He loved the mountain. He would love this. He really, his heart clearly was here on the mountain, and Arosa has little parts of him everywhere, from the barn garage to the benches and the trees, and yeah. I'm really grateful to see Marianne, and I'm grateful for this. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Maya. I think you couldn't have bought your place from a nicer couple, and certainly having John around even for those years after you bought, I'm sure was very helpful. And you reminded me when he said he drove you around everywhere. He did the same with me in that Honda of his, and he would take it out in the bush and show me hunting spots. And he got into places I never thought he could, but he did. So thanks for that story. Next person I'd like to call is Wanda. And Wanda, your last name, Kerr Howarth, I think if I got it correctly. And for those that don't know Wanda, my understanding is that she lived on Arosa Ranch for almost a decade. You can tell us.
Our story starts in 2014 when we moved into Arosa Ranch with John and Marianne. John was always there for us with any little possible thing that could possibly go wrong with the trailer. My husband at that time was not feeling so grand, so he was not as mobile as one would need to be, but John was there as the big brother to help me, and he did help. He would always guide. He did not take control. He would always guide and help me so that I could learn how to do it on my own, because he knew I'm an independent woman, and he knew better. John was always there. He was there the day the wolves came in after the horses, and I'm yelling for help, and I'm trying to stop them from going after the horses, and John comes flailing out the door, and he's like, "Wanda, get the gun." I'm like, "What gun?" He's like, "It's in the car. Go get the gun." Of course it's in the car. We all know that it's in the car. And I'm like, "But I don't have the key." He's like, "It's unlocked. You live on the mountain. We never lock anything here." So from all of those times, John was there to help each and every one of us, to protect all of us. He always was there to, at a moment's notice, if we needed anything, he would drop everything and come for us. Thank you, John, for being a big brother to me. Thank you for being there after Jim passed away. Thank you, Marianne, for all your love and support. You and John mean the world, and you are my family.
Thank you, Wanda, for your kind words. Before we go to our next speaker, I do have someone that sent me in a tribute to John that I'm just going to read out on this person's behalf. I won't mention the person's name until the end. Maybe you guys can figure it out from what is said. A tribute to John Nett. My husband and I met John in April 2000. This goes back a ways. During a visit to Bridesville. Like many of you, we instantly fell in love with the area. Knowing this, John, not long after meeting us, told us about a property for sale in Sidley. Knowing this, John, not long after meeting us, told us about a property for sale in Sidley. Soon, we were the proud owners of a little piece of heaven on Sidley Mountain. John was a walking encyclopedia. Sound familiar? He enjoyed discussing a wide range of topics from politics and history to nature, general knowledge, and statistics. He once asked us if we knew how much chocolate a Swiss person consumed in a year. Anyone want to hazard to guess? Take a guess, somebody. 3 kilos. It's more than that. Anyways, apparently, he was happy to inform us that it's approximately 10 kilos, or 22 pounds. John was a man of all trades. If he couldn't help us, he knew the person to call. He had a colorful sense of humor. He loved the Canadian outdoors. John, I know you're in a better place. Rest in peace, my friend. Written by Arlene Chang. I think many of you know Arlene, and that's a good friend of John's as well. And I think her husband passed away quite early as well. Was it Ralph Art? I can't remember his name. It was Art, Ralph? Rolf. Okay, is that German? Okay. Yeah, so that was from Arlene. She couldn't be here today, but asked me to read this out. Find out who the next speaker. Okay. So next people I'd like to bring up is a couple, and this is Jerry and Debbie. Please come on up. Make sure people can hear me. I usually talk loud enough that I don't need a microphone. So we're going to have some of the same stories. I've already figured out we sort of all knew John is the same kind of person. So first, thanks for letting me be here. It's an honor for both of us to be able to speak about John. So Debbie and I were really lucky to get to know him, very fortunate. And if the stars wouldn't have aligned, we might never have known him. And let me explain why. Because by the time we moved to the mountain, Regal Ridge was history. We never got to know John as a general manager or Regal Ridge in any way. What happened for us is we were planning to rent a house in Sluice, and we just happened to have a friend who connected us with John, and we were able to rent his house during our build. So we first knew John as our landlord, and that was great. But it got into so much more than that because John loved to talk. So he would pop by at any time, unexpected, to gab and have coffee and tell us about the mountain, and mostly though help us build and deal with the bureaucracy of the RDUS. So at that point he became a mentor for us, somebody who would answer all of our questions about the build, about where we'd move to, about the mountain, all of that stuff. So yeah, really he helped us immensely build our house and became a mentor. So as we got to know him a little bit more, then he really started telling us about the history of the mountain, the behind the scenes stories about how Regal Ridge was started and how it evolved and how it ended. But the amazing thing is, John had this mental map of the whole mountain. It was unbelievable. He knew every lot. I swear he knew every tree and every rock. He had an amazing memory. So if you asked him a question about so-and-so's place up on the mountain, he'd know exactly what you were talking about. And not only that, he also had a mental image below the ground on the mountain here. He'd witched every well, and he knew where the aquifers were. He knew where the water was. He really knew this mountain. So yeah, he knew the history of the mountain, and then he also knew the history of the community, because as Alex said, he was one of the founding members of the community society. So what he became to us then is sort of an historian to us, and he passed a lot of his knowledge on to us. So we've ended up knowing a lot about the mountain that other people might not. So then as we got to know him a little bit better, our relationship evolved into more of a friendship. And John and Mary Ann helped open doors to us to participate in the community here, to go to the Rock Creek Fall Fair, to the Cattlemen's Ball, and for Debbie, Mary Ann introduced her to the knitting circle. Although Debbie can't knit whatsoever, she did develop a lot of friendships thanks to Mary Ann. So that was a big thing. I know Debbie wants to say thank you for that. And then John was the one who put the bug in my ear about the fire department. And so I joined the fire department in 2016, and this was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I thank John for steering me in that direction. So I can truthfully say that John helped me start a new career. So in my life, I've met a lot of people I will call characters.
These are people who have lived a big life, had a lot of adventures, and have endless stories, and that's who John was. But as Alex mentioned, you kind of can't squeeze blood out of a stone to get the stories out of him. But over the one that particularly stands out for me is the contrast in some of the work he had done. So he'd worked in the Middle East as a mechanic, and he's worked in northern Alberta in Fort Vermilion as a trapper. So huge contrast, and that's just a few of the things. So John was a fellow who could witch water wells, be the fire chief and fix the fire trucks, manage a development company, and start a community society. And for us too, he more than anyone else opened the doors so that Debbie and I could become part of this community. So I want to say thank you to John and Marianne. We're very fortunate that we met him, and I think it changed our lives for the better. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Jerry and Debbie. You got me thinking of some other stories. Especially the holder of information. Anything about Regal Ridge. He had all the maps all in his head, like you said. He knew kind of about three-phase power, where it started, where it ended, why you needed it. In terms of power outages and every conduit up here, he seemed to know where it was. So we're certainly going to miss that knowledge reservoir. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to bring up Joe Simos. And for those, I think most people know Joe. I mean, he's been up here a long, long time. He'll probably tell us how long he's been up here, but long-standing resident and also the founding father of the fire department.
Thanks, Alex. Well, you all heard a few stories about John, and they are all correct. We relied on him a lot, and I had a chance of spending a lot of time with John over the years. Begin with the help that he provided us when we started the fire department and building that building. You guys know that building, the fire hall right now, it took us 2 weeks to go. From nothing to being able to use it. And John was a big help with that, providing us with some heavy equipment. And John was with the fire department right from day one. And, I'll miss him forever. I consider him one of my best friends, and certainly one of the people that helped to change the mountain to what it is today. And welcome all of these new people. When we started the fire department, there was we had to rent a, what do you call something that you're doing when you, word just came to my mouth. So, so anyhow, there was only 46 people there were eligible to vote to pay for the operation and the budget of the fire department. Oh yes, we had a referendum. 46 people that voted, only 3 voted against it. So just a little bit of history from the fire department, and that was in 2003. And John has been there all along with us. When we built that building, by the way, just a little thing for you folks to know, that building cost us $22,000. We found it in a abandoned yard in OK Falls, and been sitting there for 10 years, all in the packages. So, but it took a lot of manpower to put it where it is today. The reason I mention that is because we built a storage, the water storage tank just above the fire hall, because the well is miserable. That well is down 750 feet, and the volumes weren't enough to do a cup of coffee. Never mind the filling up the trucks. And so we built that All of this, by the way, is all done by volunteers. And didn't pay anybody to do all of the work that was necessary. And John was there all the time with helping us with equipment, like when we needed the septic system. He'd send somebody from his crew out to dig the hole in the septic. Same thing with water storage tank. So he was instrumental in having the fire department to the beginnings of it. It's much larger today. A whole lot of people. It's nice to see them all. But you know, and John later after 2012, I worked with him every day when Regal Ridge collapsed and went bankrupt. I asked John to come because of his ability, for a number of reasons, his personality, his ability of mechanics, and overall knowledge of about just about everything was an asset for our company. And so he came to work with us right up to 2020. So I had an opportunity of spending every day with him, so know him a little more. And like everybody said, he's an amazing person. And I know that I miss him already, and I think most of you will miss him as well. His knowledge of just about every subject, and if he did know something, he'd find out. And you know, there was always, he always had an answer for everything. So in addition to be one of my best friends, if not the best friend, him and Marianne and myself and my wife were very close. And I'll miss him. So thank you, John, for all the work you've done, and we'll see you sometime.
Thank you, Joe. I guess at this point here, I'm just going to do the open mic. You don't have to come up here if you feel more comfortable just sitting in your own chair and bellowing out a story about John. Feel free to do that. Otherwise, feel free to come up here. So as anybody would like to start, I'd like to say, Patricia.
All right. So I'm Patricia Edney, and my husband Dennis and I met John about 2007 through Regal Ridge, and we became fast friends together and with Marianne from that time onwards. And I guess what I want to share are a few things there. And if my husband was still alive, he would insist that we would make sure everybody understood that John was a rogue. That's how Dennis would describe him, and I think John described Dennis like that too. He was a rogue. He didn't really believe in rules applying to him. And he told me this wonderful story about driving on the Crow's Nest, coming from like past Hope and coming into I don't know where, Kiramia, somewhere around that. There was no cars on the road, so John went really, really fast. Really fast. I can't remember how fast, but ridiculously fast, and got stopped. And so when the police officer stopped him, the police officer inquired, like, what were you doing? And John said, I was going with the flow of traffic. So that, dear John, so he was a beautiful rogue. He was a born educator. He loved to teach, and he had so much incredible knowledge. And he taught me a lot of things. As a matter of fact, Wendy and I were taught how to make pasta because, John being that Swiss Italian, he knew how to make pasta, and he taught us, and we had a great time hanging fettuccine off of my laundry rack. We had a lovely time. He taught me how to make sorbet. He taught me how to open and close our swimming pool, which had a horrific number of pumps and pipes and stuff. He was able not only to figure it out, but to explain it to me. And he honored me once by saying that I was his apprentice. And I will remember that forever because it was so touching. But I think the thing I'll miss about John so much was he was a very loving man. He was a very loving man, and I know that Dennis and John had great affection for each other, and when Dennis took sick, John and Marianne loaded up the motorhome and came out to Edmonton and spent some really special time with Dennis and myself, and I will be forever grateful to the two of you, Marianne, for that, because it meant the world. This anarchist community was just the best for us. We loved it, and we're very sad that we had to leave it. But I still know the feel of this place. I'm fortunate to be able to come back from time to time, and I cherish this mountain, and I particularly cherish our dear John Nett. He was a loving man, and I miss him dearly. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. You got me thinking about some other stories as you were talking as well, and I could probably go on and on, but I do remember John talking very highly about Dennis and the relationship that he had with Dennis and you. So you guys were very special, and it had a special place in his heart, so thanks for sharing that. Anyone else like to come up and say a few words, or say a few words from where you're standing? No other stories out there? There's got to be some others.
Oh, come on, everyone.
There we go.
Everyone's got a story
Thank
about
you,
John.
Hilda. Come on up.
If you met John, you have a story.
No, so, John was always just kind of there. Like you say, when you needed him, or even when you didn't know you needed him. When our house burnt down, he was one of the first people there. And he was instrumental in helping us get a financial start in regards to, he passed it around that, okay, we didn't have anything, but we didn't need everybody else's junk. He basically said, these people need some financial help to get baby started. So let's get a fund that's going. This is before all these GoFundMe. So I'll just, him saying the whole thing of, these people don't need your old furniture, your old clothes, your old everything, just so that you can get rid of it and feel good. No, he says, that's not good. So that's my big thing about John. Thanks, Guy.
Thank you, Hilda. I'm sure it was a difficult time for you during that period of losing your house, and I'm glad to hear that the community has stepped up and supported you, and that's what community's about. Anyone else? Got to be more stories on John. And if you feel more comfortable just standing in your chair, that's fine too. All right, so we'll just continue to reflect, but I guess this concludes the formal part of our celebration of life. Lots of interesting stories there, and you certainly helped fill in some of those chapters that I wasn't aware of. Again, as much as John did talk, he didn't talk a lot about himself, so you really had to dig that part out of him. Some really common themes that I heard, not only how he affected me, but how he affected many people here today. He touched a lot of people's lives, his knowledge, his leadership, compassion, and that willingness to help, to drop everything. And I know many times, I'm sure Marianne, he was at dinner, had company, and he just left because somebody needed help, and that's what John provided. He really did build a community. He really made our community much stronger by his presence. So for this event here, again, nothing comes together without people's help. So a few thank yous. Patricia, Edney, and Wendy Shaw, thank you so much for all you've done to put things together and help keep me guided as we got everything together. And again, a big thank you to everybody that's come here to pay your respect and your tribute to John Nett. I'm sure John would be proud of what people have said of him and thought of him, and how he's touched everybody in the time that he was with us. So feel free, get up, mingle. There's beverages, both hot and cold. There's tea, coffee, some baked goods. Help yourself, walk around. Marianne's here in the front. Come and look at the board, and as we talked about earlier, we have the little stickies if you want to write a little note on that. We'll make sure that goes into the book that we have that we'll be giving to Marianne. So again, thanks everybody, and that basically concludes our official part. Thank you.
You can. How's that? Not much. 3 feet. I'm an engineer, me.
Oh, long time.
I have some other ones that were just I like that. It's a humor, inappropriate. Like your way of word. Those that know, that's how it works. He is inventing others be oh, I know, it's good. That's the way I use it. Work, even out. Did you guys go down to
I have
other than that, well, actually, it was over.
work too hard?
Scary in certain parts, like